everyone, welcome back to Crafting at Whimsy Wonderland. My name is Stacy. I have a Dollar Tree DIY for you today made with a pizza pan and some Jenga blocks. And my mind is just kind of twisting and turning over which way I'm going to go with this. But I have several ideas in mind. So you're going to need a pizza pan, and you're going to need 3 packages of these tumbling tower blocks. You can get the painted ones or you can get the all natural ones. It doesn't matter. These are the ones that have 36 blocks in it. There have been some special ones that have twice that in it. So if you do that, you only need 1 package, but you're going to need a total of 73 blocks altogether for this project of the standard size tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree, and a regular pizza pan. These pizza pans measure 11 inches on the inside, 12 inches on the outside. So that gives you an idea. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be making a wooden surface inside of my pizza pan, and that's where the 73 blocks come in. And what I want to tell you is how to count out the rows. So at the top you're going to do 2 blocks, then you're going to do 3, then you're going to do 4, then 5, then 5, then another 5, then 5, and then right across the middle you're going to have a row of 6. Okay, that's your middle, and then you're going to duplicate exactly what you had before. So here's how they're going to go: 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5, 6. And then from the back, or on the bottom side, you're going to go 5, 5, 5, 5, and then 4, 4, then 3, then 2. Okay? Now, sorry, my voice is a little scratchy. I got some allergy stuff going on. Now, if you notice how I've laid these out, I've staggered them back and forth. I don't want them to line up. I want there to be some gapping spaces. And how big of gapping space is up to you. And if you feel like you want it to be more coverage, you can add in a few more blocks. Some of them will fit another full block and some of them will not. Like this one, you could fit another 6th block in there, but I didn't really want to. Okay, so you decide how you want it to look. If you want them really staggered, if you want them gently staggered, however you decide to do it. I'm not sure where I'm going with this craft, and I've got some ideas just stirring around in my head. I know that I want this to be dark brown, kind of like these that I did for that Easter basket tiered tray that I did. So I've got 73, and I'm going to grab some. I want different colors of brown, and then I want some blue in here. Okay, it's kind of a greenish patinaed blue color. I want this to look like weathered wood when I'm done, and I'm going to paint out the pizza pan. Alright, I just finished putting a 2nd coat of Waverly's chalk paint in the color Plaster onto my pizza pan. My paint's getting kind of thick, so it's not giving me the smooth look that I want, and it's probably going to need a 3rd coat. But I just finished putting this on, so it's going to need a little while to dry. So I'm just going to go stick it on my drying rack there. And I've divided up the tumbling tower Jenga block things into 4 piles of 17, and then I think I have 6 or 7 left over. And I'm going to do each of those piles in a different color. And I want them to be kind of a watered down, weathered coloring on it. So I'm going to use some Ziploc or zip top bags. I'm using the freezer variety because I wanted them to be a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger than just sandwich size. So I'm using quart-sized freezer bags because the plastic on them is just a little tougher. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to save the paint in these a little bit after I use them. So I'm going to start by taking some of the well, let me show you the paint colors I'm going to use. I'm going to use the Waverly Antique Wax for some of the one batch. I'm going to use Waverly's Nimbus. This is just a really pale, subtle gray color. Then I'm going to use Plaster, and I'm going to use white, and then I'm going to use as my accent color the color Lagoon. Okay, you can use whatever color works into your decor. I'm kind of thinking I want this to be a summery kind of a sign, and so I'm thinking I might possibly go nautical with it. And if I'm going to go nautical, I love that blue, that Lagoon blue. Okay, so I'm going to start with the antique wax. Oh, I also have just a cardboard tray. Whenever I get a case of something like at Sam's Club or Costco and I use it up, I save these trays because they work great for drying little blocks like this. I layered in some paper towel, just getting it ready for when I am done. So I'm going to dump in approximately a tablespoon or so of the paint. Make sure you open it up so it goes down to the bottom. And then I just have a water bottle I keep on hand, and I just refill it for this purpose. I just keep refilling it from the sink and reusing. I'm going to put in about twice as much water as I have paint. Close the bag and smush it around. Get that water mixed in with the paint. And I'm going to open up the bag. And like I said, I have these divided up into groups of 17 because that's just the way it worked out. Into the bag they go. And I'm just going to roll them around in the paint inside of the bag. The longer you leave them in there, the more paint is going to saturate. Now, here's where it gets messy. You can wear gloves for this, but I suggest you have a paper towel handy. You can wear gloves for this, or you can use a tongs, or everything's non-toxic. I'm just going in with my fingers. And I'm going to lay them out on a paper towel inside this lined tray. And I'm okay with the one side being touching the paper towel. I'm even rolling him over a little bit because it's kind of puddly on some of it. Puddly, I don't think that's a real word, but you know. It is today. I'm just kind of checking also, making sure that they're evenly colored on the ends. Sometimes the ends don't seem to take in the paint the same way. And these are going to need a little bit of drying time because they're so wet. It's also good to know how many you put in so you know how many you have to take out. I'm like, oh, do I have them all? Okay, that should be all. Now I'm going to seal this back up. Squish as much air out of it as possible. Wipe off my fingers. And set the tray aside, and then I'm going to do the next color. I'm going to save this paint because as long as it's airtight, I can use it for the next batch of blocks that I want to paint this way. So just make sure you wipe off the top of it because it is kind of a little bit goopy. And I just have a container handy here, plastic container from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to stick it in there. And that'll go on my paint shelf, and I'll reuse it. I'll reuse it as I can. Alright, next batch. Antique wax is done. Make sure your lid gets on it and put it away. Next, let's do some plaster. Actually, I'm going to do the gray next. I'm trying to decide if I want more to be plaster or more to be white, and I'm just kind of leaning towards right now maybe the white would be better. So I'm going to do the Nimbus. My Nimbus one needs to be stirred. Sometimes the color stays stirred up and sometimes it doesn't, and so I'm just going to mix this up. You can shake it if you want to, but I don't like to shake it. I think it gets too much air into it sometimes. And you don't want it to dry and get yucky on you. So I'm just going to set this aside. All right. Make sure to wipe off your fingers before you go into a new color, because it will transfer off of your fingers and onto the others. Now that I'm looking how the gray came out, I'm thinking the white's going to be very similar to that, so I am going to go ahead and go with the plaster for the big batch instead of the white. Again, I'm using about a tablespoon of paint and about double that of water. The reason I divided it into groups of 17 was because there's 17 rows of blocks that make it onto the pizza pan. By the way, this is a great way to paint and stain wooden beads as well as tumbling tower blocks. It just takes forever to grab out a paintbrush and paint these things, so might as well go an easier, faster route if you can. I want to show you. It's not going to show very good on this camera. This is what I did with the Nimbus, and these are the ones I did with the Plaster. So these are going to be a little creamier color, and those are going to be a little more weathered wood gray. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do these. It's just like 6 of them that were left over from the count. I'm going to do them in white just to kind of have that little pop. Now the white ones are brighter white than the Plaster. Plaster is more of a creamy yellow. Now the fun one. The accent color I'm going to have in here is going to be the Lagoon blue from the Waverly chalk paint line. And I use this Lagoon blue a lot when I'm doing nautical themed projects. I just really like the way that this blue pops with browns and grays. It's just really vibrant and pretty, but it's not over the top. And this particular blue looks beautiful if you age it with like the antique wax. If you put a wash over the top of it, it really takes that brown wax and just becomes something even more beautiful with another depth and layer of color. So in goes my paint. I don't know. Well, let's see. I don't think I did a video. I was going to say, if you saw my pizza pan anchor that I did, but I didn't do a video on that one. I needed to get it done in a hurry, and I didn't have time to make a video. Sorry. Anyway. If the Dollar Tree ever gets their large arrows back in, maybe I'll do that pan again and show you what I did. I really love the combination of like a turquoisey cut blue and then the dark antique wax brown. I think it's just a beautiful color combo. It's one of my favorites right now. And if I can add in red, like a deep rich red, I find that combination nice. I just find it very pleasing for my tastes. I like the Pioneer Woman kind of style with that red and turquoise blue. Alright, these are going to take several hours to dry because they are very wet, and I want to make sure that the wood is nice and dry before I go and start trying to glue them together, because if they're wet, the glue will not stick. Okay, so these are very subtle color variations, but I think they will look nice, except for the blue. Obviously, that's my pop. That's my popper color. So anyway, that's how I paint my tumbling tower blocks, as I water down the paint and smush them around. If I only have a few to do, I sometimes use a large cup, and I'll mix the paint and the water in the cup and then just stir around. the beads or the tower blocks. So that's another option for you if you're painting beads. But don't take forever in a day and paint them one by one with a paintbrush. That will just drive you insane. Alright, these are going to dry. I painted, what, 75 blocks in, I don't know, 15 minutes. That wasn't too bad of a rate of getting them done. So I'm just going to look now, make sure that none of them are touching so that they don't stick together as they dry. If they are touching, I'm just moving them aside. They look good. If you're finding that you're getting a lot of puddles, just smooth it out with your finger. Make sure it's a clean finger so that you don't end up smearing your colors together. Like I have a puddle here. You can just smooth it out. You can also just take a paper towel and blot over the top. That works too. And if you don't end up getting enough color on them, you can paint them again, or you can paint them once they're glued onto the pan a little later. But they are going to get distressed after they are glued together, so remember that as well. Okay. Alright. I don't want to paint the word sign to go across it yet because I want to see what it looks like together before I decide which word I'm going to use. Alright, all of my little tumbling tower Jenga blocks, whatever, are dry. And so I'm going to start arranging them on my pan. This pizza pan has 2 coats of Waverly's chalk paint in the color Plaster and 1 coat of matte finish Mod Podge to seal in the paint so that while I'm moving the bricks around on the blocks around on it, it doesn't end up with I don't know, it doesn't end up scratching the paint up so much. So I'm going to just start grabbing. I'm going to grab 1 of each color to start with. Now, there's not a lot of difference between some of these, so I'm going to, I know I went, get my list out here. I haven't played with the color yet, so I'm going to do that now. I know I have 2 blocks in the first row. I have 3 blocks in the second. And then I'm going to grab another 1 of each color. Not the one I only have 6 of, the white. I'm going to skip a row with that. The next row is going to have 4. So I'm just kind of trying to mix the color up. So I don't want it to be all uniform. Okay. And I'm going to skip the white on the next row as well. That's the one I only have 6 of. And the next row is going to have 4. So I'm going to put my 4 together. Now, 1 row is going to slide a little to the right, and 1 row is going to slide a little to the left. I think I'm going to slide it the other way because we want the edges to be jagged. So I've got 2, 3, 4, 4. The next one's going to have 5. So I'm going to grab 1 of each color, including the white. Ooh, that one feels still wet. And I'm going to put that one, say, about there. I don't need each line to go to the edge of the pan. It doesn't need to. I'm okay with it not. Okay, so I've got, that's 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I need 6. So I'm going to grab 1 of each color. And then once I lay these out, I will decide what color I want that extra one to be. And I think I want it to be brown. Okay. I'm going to turn this around. I'm liking the way it's looking. And if I decide to, I can like pull these out and switch them around to try to get like a bigger spot of blue here and there. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. Or maybe I want a bigger spot of brown. I can do that too. Okay, this is taking me about 12 minutes to design this. And I'm thinking once I get this on it, I want to put a word across it, either like gather or home or something of that nature. So the next thing I have to do is glue all these things together and glue them down to the pan. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. I need to get my glue gun heating and I will come back. Okay, so you're going to have to leave in the comment section below. Did you like it before I grouped like colors together? Did you like it more spread out? I want it to look like weathered wood, and I love how this piece kind of turned a little more green because it was a really yellow piece of wood. But I like how that gives you that variation of color. And I'm going to be using my wood glue hot glue gun over here. Sorry about the mess you're about to see. Okay, it's just a Surebonder glue gun that I have put Surebonder wood glue sticks in. It's hot wood glue. You can use the glue, liquid glue from a bottle. That would totally work. It would just take a little while to dry. You could probably even use just plain hot glue and be fine. I have this on hand, so this is what I'm going to use if my gun will work. This is a high temperature gun. I'm just going to smear some glue on there, and I'm going to put them together on my silicone mat to make sure that they're level. And then I'm just going to place them back into the board. I want to glue each row together first, and then I don't think I'm going to glue all of the rows together into one big piece. They're just going to get glued onto the pan because I don't want to end up with it not. I want to be able to push them back and forth like I have them designed to do. And if I glue it together off of the pan, I'm more likely to make a mistake. So anyway, this is going to take me a little while to glue all these together, and I don't think you really want to sit there and watch me glue all these together. Within this project, I'm going to show you two different ways of doing it, and then I'm going to, of gluing these to the pan, and then I'm going to let you know which way I think looks best and seem to work better. So I've got this first half. I don't have this middle row of 6 glued together end to end, just this bottom half. And what I'm going to do is take and put E6000 and hot glue. Oops, see, that didn't even stick together. E6000 and hot glue together and glue them to the pan, and on this half. And then on the next half, I'm going to glue down each block to the pan, one block at a time. Because what I'm noticing on these as I'm gluing them together end to end is that they're not as level as I would like for them to be. So I'm going to go ahead and try to fix that. And I'm thinking that I might just get a better looking product if I glue each individual one down. Okay, this is being a stinker. Alright, well, I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to put down on each block, let's see, you need a piece of paper underneath of your E6000 so it doesn't make a mess. Okay, so I'm going to put E6000 on each block run, and I'm going to put hot glue in the middle. If you hear any crackling, that means that's the sound of the two glues mixing, and that means that they're going to end up canceling each other out, so you might as well just pull them off and re-glue them, is what I've discovered when using hot glue and E6000 together. Crackling is not a sound you want to hear. If you hear it, you might as well redo it now rather than later. Alright, so I'm going to put E6000 on each block. I'm not going to rely on that hot glue having held together in between, because it just wasn't doing a really good job, and that's why I've switched to this method. And plus I can move them around how I want to. See how they're not really fitting solidly together. Now the hot glue is going to hold better to this than it would to a normal metal pan, because I do have that layer of E6 or of Mod Podge on there, and that is going to give something a little better for the hot glue to hold to. So as long as my Mod Podge doesn't fail underneath there with the chalk paint, it should hold pretty good. But that's why I'm putting E6000. I would not expect this to stay together if I were just putting it together with hot glue. So hot glue on metal is not your best choice. Okay, I am not worrying about gluing each row to the next row up. I'm just gluing them on. One dot on the end of each block, and then a dot of hot glue in the middle of each block of the run. I think that will give it a good hold. So I'm going to keep them in order, flip them over as I pick them up off the pan, and I'm going to go ahead and do my E6000 all at once. I'm going to put my hot glue in the middle and set my first brick up against the one below it. In it goes. This might take a little longer, but I think in the end I'm going to have a nicer looking project because they'll fit together a little bit better. I'll have a little more flexibility of their exact placement. I think I actually like this method better, where I go block by block. I think I'm getting a tighter, nicer looking piece of art. And I think it's just going to be better in the long run. 6000 does good on adhesion if you let it sit for a few minutes. So if you're going to put your glue on like this ahead of time, that is absolutely okay with E6000, and sometimes it even makes it stick better. My trick for E6000, because it's all over my fingers, don't go to the bathroom sink with it. Don't put water on it yet. Wipe off as much as you can off of your skin with a dry paper towel, and then just rub your fingers back and forth. That's going to get most of it off. Then once you get the big chunks off, then go wash the residue off. But don't try to wash all of the glue off with water, because it's just not going to be what you want it to be. Please fit last piece. I always worry about the last piece when they're up against the edge like that. Alright, here is my finished piece for the background. Let's see if we can get you flat on here. Alright. Take a look at this, because This top part is what I glued together into bars and then put the bars on. Look at the gaps that are in between that, because they weren't flexible for me to move and wiggle around each individual block. They were already stuck together. And some of them aren't exactly straight, and that's why I'm getting those gaps. But if you look down at the bottom, each individual piece was pushed into the best place possible for it, and it's a better, tighter fitting look. And so all together, that bottom half looks nicer. So anyway, this is what I've got so far. I definitely think it was worth a little bit of extra time. It took me, I think, 7 minutes to glue down the top half, and it took me about 12 minutes to glue down the bottom half plus the middle piece. So it did take a tiny bit longer, but totally worth it. I think the 5 or 6 extra minutes that it took to glue that bottom half gave me a much nicer looking finish on that, and I think it's going to be much better. Once this is all dry, I am going to distress these colored blocks a little bit. I don't want to distress the pan. I want it to be kind of a surprising look and a contrast, where I've got a pristine pan with a rough piece of wood. Kind of a shabby chic trash to treasure kind of look is what I'm going for. So this will get sanded a little bit and distressed, and it will probably get an antique wash or some dry brushing of some sort. So like I say, it's getting late here tonight, so I wanted to get this done before I went to bed so that it has time to sit and cure overnight, and when I get up in the morning it'll be dry enough for me to work with without it falling apart. So anyway, that's how far I've gotten, and I'm loving how this is looking so far. I had a definite picture of how I wanted it to look in my head, and so far it's coming along. So we'll see how it finishes up tomorrow. Alright, so this is dried overnight. I've got a paper towel out here, and I've gotten out my Waverly antique wax, and I'm going to distress this. And for distressing, I like to use these cheap little kid like finger paint, not finger paint, but temper paint brushes. They're kind of scruffy. They hold a lot of paint, but you can also get them to dry off pretty well. So with that, I'm just going to brush gently over the top. I dipped that into the paint, and then I dabbed it off on a paper towel. I'm trying very hard not to get any onto the pan. I don't want the pan distressed, just the wood. And I love the way that this blue goes with the brown so nicely when you distress it. It's just a good combo. I think I'm going to call it good with that. And just having that distressing on it, on all of the colors, it just kind of blends it and ties all of it together. If you would prefer, you can do sandpaper. I decided against sandpaper on this because I didn't really want to expose any of the raw wood, so I just went with that. Okay, so this is going to dry for a little bit, then I'm going to put a coat of Mod Podge on top of the chalk paint, just because I like the way that Mod Podge gives a little bit of a sheen to chalk paint. Okay, so my distressing has dried, and I have put 3 coats of black onto the word blessings, and I'm going to cover both the wood blocks and the blessings with a coat of Mod Podge. I'm going to start with this because I just finished that, and I want it to give it another minute or 2 to dry. I'm trying to make sure I don't get any puddles in where I've got gaps in my blocks from where I got them not as closely together at the first. Some of these really pretty rub-ons from the Dollar Tree, and make a wreath. And who knows, I might still do that. It's not over till it's over, right? My mind goes in a million different ways when I start making a project, and then I see how it's turning out, and then the way it turns out inspires something else, and I just kind of start rolling with it. I think this might be a little dark to apply those to. I don't know if they would show up really well. Okay, so I am just going to let this sit and dry. It just gives it a little luster. It's not going to be that shiny once it dries. I'm just going to make sure there's no puddles. There's these wonderful stickers at the Dollar Tree, and I picked up these 2 stickers at 2 different times, probably 2 different Dollar Trees. Same sticker, different color. Okay, this one's silver, this one's black. I don't know. That would look cute on there if you were wanting a sign for your bathroom. That would look really cute on there because this kind of resembles tile, the way that it's put together like that. Then I have this laundry one, but this one would be too big for this sign, so it's out. But this laundry one, each word is cut separately and each picture is cut separately. So you could put that on the sign. There's also these from the Dollar Tree that would work on that. I have another idea for these though that I want to do. I've got several of them. There's another one of those that was silver. And then I have stay humble, work hard, be kind. And you could put any or all of those sayings on there. There's also Amazing Grace, would look beautiful on that. And then I have these left over from a project that I did in the fall where I just wanted the vines that were on it. So Grateful, Thankful, Blessed, either one of those would look good. This would look good except for it's too big. And then there's this one, Faith, it doesn't make things easy, it makes them possible. And you could arrange these words in any way that you felt led to do. So you would definitely want to put Mod Podge over the top of your chalk paint before doing any of these stickers, and you'd probably want to put Mod Podge on over the top as well, and then give it a clear coat after it's completely dry. And the Mod Podge would protect the stickers from any chemical reaction that they might have with the spray paint. So those are all options for that. Okay, but I think I'm going to stick with my metal word, blessed, because I want to be able to put, or blessings, because I want to be able to put a bow on it. And I think if I do too big of a thing, I won't be able to put a bow. I don't want a big bow, just a little bow. I kind of don't even want a bow, to tell you the truth. I don't like things being super fancy. It's just not my style. So anyway, so this is pretty dry. This though is not. I'm going to pull this up just so it doesn't stick completely. Everything needs a little bit of time to dry, and so we're just gonna let it set aside and be done with that for right now. Okay, remember how I told you my mind goes in a million different ways when I'm doing a project? I kept laying that blessings word on here, and I just kept thinking it's too plain because I don't want to put a fussy bow on it. It needed something. That was just too plain to me. So what I've decided to do, and I think it's going to work because I went ahead and pulled off one of these rub-on transfers and laid it on there. It's going to be a little dark over the dark pieces, but I think we'll be able to make it work. So what I'm using is the rub-on transfers from the Dollar Tree that look like this. Okay, there's 2 kinds of vines on here. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting away the spiky vines, okay, and I'm going just for the eucalyptus ones. And these I will save for another project. Don't cut off the backing. Okay, let me take out, I have some left from my Christmas projects that are already open, so I'm going to use those up. But what I do is I leave them on the white backing and I just cut out what I need and stick it back into the packaging. And then I have a pegboard system where I hang things, and I just hang these on a peg just like they came out of the store. They just have a piece cut out of them. So I'm going to set that aside for a second, and I'm going to open this up. And I always put my leftover pieces back into the packaging, so don't Don't throw that away. Now there are two cards. There's a card that the rub-on is attached to. Remove that, but leave the card that is part of this labeling packaging. Leave that inside. You want to leave the rub-on attached to its backing is what I'm trying to say. Okay, and then you're left with this card that's folded over to make this packaging. Keep that, because these can tuck right back in there and be protected and safe when you store them. Okay, so what I'm doing, I'm going to set this one aside. I have no idea how many of these I'm going to need at the moment. So I'm going to cut off this spiky one, put it aside. Here's another spiky one. I'm going to cut that off. I just want the eucalyptus. The spiky one's pretty, and it will make a nice wreath on another project. What I'm going to make on this is I'm going to draw a circle on there and rub these on in a circle and try to make a wreath that is similar to the little one, because I made this project and it's going to be in one of my videos coming up, and I want to put the same wreath onto this and have one of these on each side. I think that will make a really pretty display. So I've got all of these cut apart individually, and I'm thinking I want to keep it symmetrical because it's a circle. So I'm going to need 4 of each thing, especially this great big one right here. So I need to make sure that I cut out 4 of them. So you're going to need 4 packages. If you're going to do it the same way I'm doing, you're going to need 4 packages of these rub-on transfers. You're not going to use the entire package, I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure. But just get them prepped and ready to go, and then it'll be there for you. These little ones are just going to be fillers in between where, you know, little blank spot needs a little extra filling. If you wanted to, you could probably do with just 1 or 2 packages and use both kinds of vines. They're the same color family. They would coordinate together. I just don't know how they would look rubbed on together in a wreath. I just really like the simplicity of the eucalyptus. It's very farmhouse to me. Ooh. When you pull these out, be careful that you don't get your decal or your rub-on stuck to the packaging adhesive. Just rub it back onto the paper if it happens, and it should stick. Alright, so I have 4 of these, and it actually might be even better. I'm going to use a 5th one. I'm just going to have it prepped. I may or may not use it. Okay, before I go any further, I'm going to take these pieces that I've cut apart, the spiky ones, and I'm going to get them put away so they don't get damaged in the process. Because we're all on budgets, right? We like to use up every little scrap we can, and these are just pretty, so why waste them? Alright, so I'm ready to start making my wreath, and I'm going to use this roll of ribbon to be my circle, and I'm using the blocks to kind of judge where the middle is, and I've got a nice sharp pencil I'm going to trace this circle with. I don't want the circle to be too dark, but I need to be able to see it. Okay, boom. You can kind of see that circle drawn on there. Just eyeball it again to make sure it looks centered. And it does to me. So I'm going to start by laying out my pieces. Now, I'm going to have them all kind of going in the same direction. So I'm just eyeballing where I want them. Okay, I need to have kind of an even space in between them. Alright, and I'm loving with these big ones that the angle they are, I can put the tip of the leaf on the circle and the stem on the circle. That'll give me some symmetry and help it to come together in a wreath shape. Okay, I'm liking the start of that, so I'm going to go ahead and rub these down, and then I'll lay out the next layer. I am using 5 of these, so you will need 5 packages unless you have some left over from a previous package or previous project. And the best thing to put down a rub-on transfer, best thing to use in my opinion, is a popsicle stick. So I'm going to rub over the entire thing, and then I'll go back and start peeling it up. Actually, I've got a bump in my blocks here, so I'm going to peel as I go. Actually, it's not the normal way I would do it, but because of the roughness of the blocks and the uneven surface, I'm going to need to peel as I go to make sure it's stuck before I move on. You're going to make sure that you have a nice coat of Mod Podge on here before you start rubbing these on. Make sure that Mod Podge is completely dry. This is the biggest project I think I've ever done using rub-on, so I hope it turns out, because I'm past the point of no return here. If it doesn't work, you guys get to learn from my mistakes. And I will be sad because a lot of work will be gone away if this doesn't work. Now, as you're going, make sure you're checking to make sure that you don't have any of the transfer still stuck to the plastic, to the acetate, because sometimes it sticks. And what I'm noticing is that the stickiness of the acetate has pulled up some of my pencil line, and I'm okay with that, because in the end I'm not going to want to see that pencil line anyway. Alright, so where I have uneven spot on my blocks, I'm pressing it down with my popsicle stick, making sure that it's good. Okay, I'm going to also burnish it in with my finger to make sure that it gets down into all the little folds. Here's what I'm talking about. It took, see that line on there? That's not line from the rub-on. That's a line from my pencil from here. Okay, so there's the first one. I think it looks kind of nice. It's going to be a real subtle it's going to be a real subtle wreath. I think it's going to be really pretty. So I'm going to line up the end of my stem and the point of the leaf on the circle, and I'm going to start rubbing. Just try to get even spacing. That doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just eyeballing it. I'm not measuring it. If you don't feel comfortable eyeballing it, then go ahead and measure it. There's nothing wrong with that. It'll take you more time, but that's okay. If the project is going to bother you, if it looks like it's a tiny bit off, then take the time to measure it. I have learned to love little oopses. It makes it look more handmade. Okay, this one really messed up on me, but I'm going to be okay with that. This is a very rough block, and it just didn't stick very well. So it's going to be blended in with other leaves, so I don't think it's going to matter. Just really rub, especially where it's rough, really rub it with your finger, but be gentle so you don't tear it. Okay. And this is my last one of this. This is going to be a project with a little bit of labor of love to it. If you don't want to do the wreath, you don't have to. You can skip to the next part where I attach the word. If I even decide to attach the word, this is really looking nice in my opinion. I'm liking that subtlety of the rub-on on that bright color, especially that turquoise. Alright, next I'm going to start with my big straight pieces, and I'm going to put them in between. Oh, some of them are bigger than, some of the spaces are bigger than others. So I'm just going to kind of blend it in, kind of line up where the stems were, and rub, rub, rub. Same action, rub and peel as you go. Wanted to get the big pieces on first, and then I can fill in with the little ones that go every which way. This one doesn't have as big a space through it as the other one did, so I'm going to kind of center those little leaves in there. I was making this from a booth, but I am not entirely sure it's going to make it to my booth. It might just make it to my wall. They're saying here in Utah that we should be back to normal around July, so I'm hoping that some of these craft sales will open back up and I can get my booth up and running again. I've been missing them a little bit. Rub that in. When I say slice a gap, I'm just poking it in with my thumbnail, rubbing it with my finger and letting it be. Alright, one more space to go. It is also a little smaller, so I'm going to grab one of these smaller ones. Make sure you rub it down. Okay, I'm going to take another moment to rub down the entire piece because I've had a lot of things going in and up over the top. Now, I love how this is looking. Now, if you have a spot that looks a little bare, you can add another piece, but I kind of like exactly how that looks. Here's the one that they did. Here's the one I've done. And I still have a ton of my rub-ons left. Where I do have these straight ones that are pretty big and straight, I might add in an extra little branch coming off. You can make this as full or as simple as you want. Whatever your style and your taste is, do that. Okay, so there's that one added in, just right here. Just gave it a little more fullness, and I'm thinking it looks a little tiny bit flat right here, so I'm going to take one of these rounded ones and I'm going to add it in. Whoop! I'm going to add that in right here just to make it a little fluffier. Leaf over leaf is fine, they'll stick to each other and be okay. Okay, added that in, so that filled in that little spot. It's getting a little busy over there. I'm seeing another little flat spot here from the straight piece, so I'm going to grab another piece and add in there. Just where I put those big straight ones, I'm seeing that it just needs a little extra fluff. Now I'm going to need a smaller word to go in the middle. I don't think my blessings word is going to work. I'm going to go back to the Dollar Tree and look at those new laser cut wooden pieces they have. and see what I can find there. I think it will be cuter to have a small word. And I am not going to add a big fussy bow. Some of you are probably thinking, oh, it needs a bow. If I do a bow, it'll be right here, not up at the top of my pizza pan. All right, I'm liking that. I think I'm going to stop right there. I like how it kind of disappears a little bit into the wood. It's really soft and subtle. But if I were to take my blessings word right now and put it across there, I think it kind of takes away from it. I think I need a smaller word that fits inside of the wreath, and I think that will look nicer. Okay, I'm really loving the softness and the subtlety of this, especially when it's paired with this, and I just happen to paint them the same color. My mind was working in a way I didn't even know. So you need 4 packages if you want to do it exactly the way I did with those big, or 5 packages, I'm sorry, with spacing with those bushier ones. But I actually think if I had done 4, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and then done 4 of the bigger pieces in between them, I think it actually would have come out a little bit more balanced. So I think you can totally get away with 4 of those packages. So right now, this project has cost, I needed 2 boxes of Jenga blocks, unless I had the tall one. If I had a tall one, it would only been 1. 2 boxes of Jenga blocks, so that's $2. A pizza pan, that's $1, so that's $3. Plus the $4 for 4 packages of this would be $7. I'm going to need a hanger on the back, and I'm going to use a cell phone ring, so that's going to be $8. And then I've got my word. So for around $10, I'm making this beautiful piece. All right, I am going to go to the Dollar Tree right now and check out what I can find. And if I can't find at the Dollar Tree, I will hop across the street to the Hobby Lobby. Okay, but I want this, maybe I'll find a word other than blessed. I really wanted it to say gather. So maybe I can find a gather word that will work. But look at all of the rub-ons that I have left out of those 5 packages, and they were partial packages too. All of those are left for another project, so I am not, it's not really fair to count $4 into this for that supply. So if you're going to sell it and figure out a price, you always got to take what you use and base it on that. All right, I'm talking too much. I'm going to stop and head out to the store and see what I can find. Okay, I ran to Hobby Lobby and I found this wood pile package of laser cut words. Regularly $3.99. I think they were on sale. Don't remember how much they were on sale for. Anyway, there's all these words in it. My Dollar Tree that I ran to did not have any laser cut words other than inspire, and it was really small and wouldn't have worked on this. So this one has welcome, family, hope, hello. I like hello, but it's too small. It has loved, blessed, gather, and coffee. I was hoping for the gather, but it's also looking too small now that I'm looking at it. I wanted some just a little bit bigger than these words, but they just didn't have them. So let's get out this blue. It's the Lagoon color. It's the same blue I used on there. And I'm just going to dip into the cap. I'm doing my best just to keep it on the top. Having that laser cut burnt brown edge on it is also going to help give it some depth. And that's why I'm not going to need to pop it up, is because of that laser color, that brown color on the side. Just trying to be a neat painter, and you know that's not my strong suit. I like that. I think that's what I'm going to stick with. It's soft, it's subtle, it's easy. I like the simplicity of it. And I think that'll be good. Okay, so I need to glue this down. And I think I'm going to use hot glue. Alright, so I have my hot glue gun ready, and my word has had a little time to dry. And I'm just gonna pump some hot glue on here across the lettering. I'll get the strings and stuff off of it later. And we're going to put it right across the center. Smooth out some of that glue. Alright. There you go. Let me show you what I'm going to do for a hanger. Alright, here is the best thing I have found to use for a hanger on the back of your pizza pans. When you go to push this down onto your piece, that you dab a little E6000 on there. Because, the only reason being, I have hung a piece, and I probably should have used 3 when I only used 2, and it came apart and didn't stick. And what actually came off was the total adhesive pad came completely off of the holder, but I think it's just because it was too heavy. So what I'm going to do is mark my back center. So I'm finding where the top of where the center top is, and just bringing my pencil to the back and making a mark. That way I have a little mark there that shows me, once my pan is upside down, which way is up. And these spin, so you don't have to worry too much about which way you hang it. It's going to come out. So I like to hang it to where the ring hits. I put the edge of the mounting square up against the edge, the raised edge of the pizza pan, and then that leaves the ring hidden behind the rim of the pizza pan and gives it space for the nail or pin or whatever you're gluing it with to get through there. So peel off that back. And just a little bit of of E6000. I just put a dot in each corner. You don't need a lot. Look where your mark is for your center and stick it down. Now it's going to get held in place by the sticky adhesive while the E6000 dries and does its job. And voila, you have a hidden hanger that's sturdy enough to support your piece. Okay, I will be back and show you how I put this all together in a few minutes. Alright, there you have it, my finished weathered wood pizza pan with a wreath on it. I am loving how this is looking, and I especially love how it looks paired up with the project I did in the last video with those little eucalyptus trays. I think it's going to look really cute in my guest bathroom up above the towel rack, and it's going to be just what I need it to be. Let me know what you're thinking about this project in the comment section below. If you like this project, please give it a thumbs up. That helps my channel to grow. Let me know what you're thinking. Are you going to plan on doing this for yourself? Alright, this has been Crafting at Whimsy Wonderland. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time.